Hello friends, today we are going to do chapter number 2, my first trip and homecoming of our novel David Copperfield. Do you know who is the writer? Yes, the writer of the novel is Charles Dickens. So let's start. When I first arrived in Yarmouth, I was disappointed. I don't know what I expected, but I certainly did not think that the seaside would be so dull and gloomy. However, I soon cheered up when I met Peggotty's relatives. Her friendly and jolly brother Mr. Peggotty, his nephew Ham, and his niece Emily, who was also an orphan. Emily was the same age as me, and when I saw her, it was love at first sight. Mr. Peggotty's widowed sister-in-law, Mrs. Gummidge, lived there too. She seemed miserable and complained all the time. I don't think she realized how lucky she was to be with such good people. They all lived in a strange but wonderful place. A large boat that had been turned into a house. It no longer sailed on the water but was now permanently on the beach. It was divided into little rooms with proper furniture and pictures on the wall. There was even a fireplace. Every room was painted in bright colors. The place had a fishy smell, of course, but it wasn't at all unpleasant. While I was in Yarmouth, I spent most of my days collecting stones and shells on the beach with Emily. One day, a dreamy, distant look came into Emily's eyes and she told me her secret wish. If I was a lady, I would buy Uncle Peggotty a gold watch and a silver pipe. Oh, and a red velvet waistcoat with diamond buttons on it, because he has been so good to me and my third cousin, Ham. Then her smile disappeared. I don't think I will ever become a lady, though my father was only a fisherman and my mother was a fisherman's daughter. So I don't suppose I am from the right sort of family. Her beautiful eyes looked so sad that I wished I could do something to help make her wish come true. My holiday came to an end too soon and we had to part. I was very sad to leave little Emily, but we promised to write each other. She was my first love and I would never forget her. When I arrived back home, I found that everything had changed. Mother had married Mr. Murdstone and his sister had come to live there. It just didn't feel like home anymore. Even my mother seemed to be different. She rarely spoke to me, and when she did, it was in a quick whisper. Davy, I love you, but please behave. I felt lonely and cried every night for hours before I fell asleep. Mr. Murdstone had not only changed the atmosphere of the rookery, but he had also changed Mother. She feared him and his sister. If Mother showed me any kindness, he would frown at her, then take her aside and talk to her in a strict way. I felt so sorry for Mother. Remember that. I am teaching you how to be a good mother. Be firm with the boy and always control yourself. Your son needs discipline. Mother would lower her head and I sometimes saw tears in her eyes. One day I went to the living room after breakfast for my morning lessons with mother. Mr. and Miss Murdstone sat and listened carefully to everything she said and watched everything she did. She smiled at me when she thought the Murdstones weren't looking. But Mr. Murdstone saw her and decided to ask me a question. How much will I have to pay for 5,000 pieces of cheese if each one costs 4.5 pennies? I was so afraid that I couldn't answer the question. I saw Miss Murdstone smile at her brother. He doesn't know the answer. Edward, Mr. Murdstone stood up. Then I saw that he held a cane in his hand. He swished the cane, and I heard it whistle through the air. When I was a boy and didn't know my lessons, I was beaten. It did me no harm, and it will do you no harm either, David. My mother begged Mr. Murdstone to give me another chance, but he refused to listen. David and I will go upstairs and will teach him a lesson he will never forget. Mr. Murdstone dragged me up to my room and held my head under his arm so that I could not move. Then he beat me with the cane until I thought I would die. I begged him to stop, but he just beat me harder, so I did only the thing I could. I bit his hand. This made Mr. Murdstone very angry. He beat me again. Then when I couldn't stand up anymore, he threw me to the floor, left the room and locked the door behind him. That will teach you a lesson, Copperfield, and you will have plenty of time to think about your behavior. I was left there alone for 5 days. Mother and Peggotty was not allowed to come near me. Only dear Peggotty whispered to me one night through the keyhole, Mr. Murdstone has decided to send you away to boarding school. I will never forget you, Master Davy. I love you, and so does your mother. Those words meant so much to me, and I would remember them whenever I was alone. Thank you, friends. Bye bye. Here the chapter gets over.